Welcome back, troops. Let's Tab 59. Cracking day, bit windy. Hope the mic's not playing up. So if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, please consider it. I'm not saying do it, saying consider it. So, been talking about the Normandy landings, the invasion, Operation Overlord, D-Day landings, because we're very fastly approaching the 80th anniversary of those landings back in June 44. And so I've done a couple of previous videos that you might have seen. If you haven't, have a look on different beaches. But I also want to talk about some of the raids that went on as well, not just the beach landings. And one of them that I think really does stand out for me was the assault by the 9th Battalion the Parachute Regiment on the Merville battery. Now, the Merville battery was a very formidable fortification, gun emplacement, big casements. They had guns that were capable of firing about 24 rounds per minute, potentially onto Sword Beach. Now, that needed to be silenced and taken out before the amphibious landings went in on Sword Beach, because obviously that amount of firepower coming down on the lads trying to get out the beach, it probably could have completely finished off that assault and it wouldn't have been unsuccessful. So it had to be taken out in a very daring raid. The job was given to the 9th Battalion of the British Parachute Regiment. So the fortifications at Merville Battery, as I say, it's big gun emplacements, encasements. There's something like the roof, the top of the casements where the guns were housed, was about 6 foot thick of concrete, reinforced concrete, and on top of that, another 6 foot of earth packed down. So very, very strong fortification. Now, it's obviously for an infantry and airborne lightly armed unit to take that out, they're going to need some kit. They needed Bangalore torpedoes. Round the fort, or the gun emplacement if you like, was initially a ring of barbed wire, then a minefield. This goes right round the whole circumference, a minefield, and then another set of barbed wire. So the guys needed Bangalore torpedoes. They needed to break through that wire. They needed mortars to put fire down on the guns. They needed anti-tank weapons to help silence or blow their way into the casements. They needed explosives. Once they got inside, they needed to blow the guns in place to make them ineffective, as I say, so the assault on Sword Beach could go in. So they needed a lot of kit. And as you know, paratroopers, shock troops, stormtroopers, they don't always carry that amount of kit. So what they decided to do was drop the lads in with their kit, their normal infantry kit, and then have 3 gliders towed over with the remainder of 9 para and with some airborne engineers on board. And amongst those gliders, they would have all the explosives, the technological know-how, the training to make that assault effective and silence the guns. And I think even there was jeeps, or at least one jeep in one of them. So that was what they had, and off they went. Well, the idea was that the gliders would actually land inside the compound, so over those barbed wire fences, over that minefield, and get the gliders actually in amongst the Germans. And I think the CO wanted the pilots to actually come in with the gliders and try and land the gliders between the casemates, so that the casemates would actually break the wings off the glider in a way of sort of breaking them and stopping them going any further. Imagine trying to do that. But anyway, it didn't work out quite right, because the 3 gliders take off. One of them, over the channel, the tow rope, the tow line from the aircraft tugging it, snapped. Amazing feat by the pilot and his co-pilot. They managed to, because they've got no power, they're in a glider and the rope snapped. They managed to turn their glider around and get back over land. They saw some lights and they brought it down to land. It's actually landed at Odium. How cool is that? So they were out of the game. Not completely, actually, because the commander of that glider got the lads down to Portsmouth, and actually they went in with the amphibious landing. But that's another story. So that's one glider out of action. One glider did make it in and one overshot. It meant that the CO then had to gather what men he'd got, because the drop was, they overshot their drop zone as well. They're supposed to land about a mile away and then tab in, line up at a line of departure, start line, whatever you want to call it, forming up point, and take the assault in with the gliders coming in as well. So with the men scattered all over, and many of the lads, bless them, the Germans had flooded some fields, and a lot of lads went into that and drowned. They literally couldn't pull the lads out and people were drowning. The CO got to the RV, and when he got there, he was waiting for everyone to assemble at this RV. Everyone knew, they'd been practicing for months. They knew the terrain. They knew that wherever they landed, they had to find their way to this RV. It's so important. We're going to form up there and then go forward to launch the assault. When they got there, there was 100 men, just 100 out of 600. The CO, Lieutenant Colonel Otway, his timings, he'd put 15 minutes, quarter of an hour in the bank, so to speak. So he had that up his sleeve. So that allowed him to wait another 15 minutes to see if any more men turned up. And they did, but only 50. So he's got 150 men. He's got no mortars. I think he had 3 or 4 Bangalore torpedoes. No mine clearing kit, because remember they had to break through the barbed wire fence, get through the minefield, break through another barbed wire fence, and get in amongst the Germans and sort this position out. He didn't have all the kit, no mortars, no heavy machine guns, no jeeps, nothing, no explosives to take the guns out, even if they did get in there. So he did it anyway. He went in with 150 men. They split into 2 groups. One group launched a diversionary attack to make as much noise as they could. Obviously, went in firing from the hip, lobbing grenades, shouting, screaming. That concentrated the Germans' defence towards them, allowed the colonel with the rest of the men to dive in and try and sort it out. They dropped onto the barbed wire fence, a couple of lads, the red light bridging, just laid us down the barbed wire. The rest of the lads drove over them, run over them rather, and stormed in amongst it. Now, the Germans had left the big reinforced casement doors open for ventilation, because you can imagine inside there. So some of the lads were able to get in that way and get amongst the Germans and start sorting them out. Now, they couldn't blow the guns up. They had grenades. They tried to disable the guns. They took the breech blocks off, etc., to try and get those guns out of action, and they did. I think there was only one gun that was able to continue to fire. Now, the paratroopers had to get out of that position because at around 0500 hours, it was planned that whether the mission had been successful or not, a Royal Navy ship out in the channel, just off the coast, had that marked as a target, and so was going to pound the crap out of that position. And of course the CO knew this, the men knew this. So they had to get out of Dodge pretty damn quick. So that's what they did, they pulled out. Took a lot of prisoners. They went then to another RV point to form up, and that's when, I think it was a Calvary Cross they got to, which was a crucifix on the road, a side of a road. That was our RV point after the assault. They got there, and that's when the CO, Colonel Otway, realised that out of the 150 men that went in on that assault, he had 75 left. 75. I think it's written somewhere, and don't quote me on the exact wording, but there's a lot of an epitaph, if you like, to the assault. It says they did it because they didn't know it was impossible. When you attack a position like that, and I think the German force is about 130 men strong, the attack ratio for a position like that would be about 6 or 7 to 1 in favour of the attackers. 130 Germans in there, 150 men. It's nearly 1 to 1. Plus all the obstacles he had to get through. He didn't have the kit, they didn't have the kit, but they still went ahead and done it. I mean, I find that an absolute true feat of arms. There's lots of things happened on D-Day and Normandy, but that raid on the Merville battery by the 9th Battalion the Parachute Regiment has got to be one of the most amazing feats, and just shows you how tough those boys were. So, it's the end of my little chat, my little tab. I'll make my way back now, but before I go, I just want to raise my little flask up to the 9th Battalion the Parachute Regiment and their amazing, deadly assault on the Merville battery in the early hours of D-Day, 1944. So to you lads, well done, and we will remember them. Bit full. Okay, put the lid on. Okay. So thanks very much again for tuning in and listening to my waffle. Try and pay tribute to the boys as much as I can on this big upcoming 80th anniversary. And so, till the next time, troops. And it won't be long. Remember, stay safe and let's tap.